The morning sun filtered softly through the white curtains of a quiet suburban neighborhood. Birds chirped on the trimmed lawns, sprinklers hissed in rhythmic bursts, and neighbors waved to one another as they left for work. Everything appeared peaceful, except for the house at the corner of Maplewood Drive, where something unexpected was about to unfold. Derek Coleman stood at the window of his newly purchased home, sipping a mug of coffee. It had taken him years of relentless hard work to get here, to finally own a house in one of the most sought-after neighborhoods in town. He had worked double shifts at the hospital, saving every dollar while dreaming of a place where his daughter could grow up safely. He'd made it. Or so he thought. Today marked the first week since he moved in. Boxes still littered the living room, and a few pictures waited to be hung. Yet, even amidst the clutter, the place already felt like home. Derek smiled as he looked around. "Yeah, this is it," he murmured to himself. New beginnings. Just as he set his mug down, the doorbell rang. He wasn't expecting anyone, but assuming it might be a delivery, he went to answer. When he opened the door, his expression changed from curiosity to confusion. Standing before him was a middle-aged woman in a floral dress, holding a clipboard and wearing an expression that could curdle milk. "Good morning," Derek greeted politely. The woman didn't return the smile. Instead, she tilted her chin upward with the kind of arrogance that comes from a lifetime of getting her way. "Are you the new renter?" she asked sharply. Derek blinked. "Renter?" he repeated. "No, I'm the owner." Her lips tightened. "No, you're not. This house belongs to the Thompson family. I've lived across the street for 20 years. I know who lives here." Derek's smile faded, but his tone stayed calm. "Well, ma'am, the Thompsons sold it last month. I bought it from them. All legal, all official." The woman scoffed. "I don't think so. They wouldn't just sell this house to someone like you." Her eyes narrowed as she looked him up and down, her voice dripping with prejudice. Derek immediately recognized what she meant but tried to keep his composure. "Someone like me?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. She crossed her arms. "A stranger who moves in without notice. You can't just waltz into this neighborhood and claim a house that isn't yours. We have standards here." "Standards," Derek repeated quietly. His heart rate picked up, but he took a breath. He'd dealt with this kind of behavior before, people who thought his skin color defined who he was or what he could own. "Ma'am," he said evenly, "if you'd like, I can show you the deed. My name is right there on it." She smirked. "Please do. Because I'm calling the Homeowners Association if you don't prove you belong here." Derek turned to get the paperwork, but before he could, she barked out, "Actually, before you go, you need to understand something. People here pay their dues. Rent, fees, maintenance. If you want to live here, you'll need to pay me for the first month." Derek froze. "Excuse me?" She tapped her clipboard. "I manage the neighborhood properties. Since you're clearly renting, you owe me this month's rent, $2,000, due today. Cash preferred." Derek stared at her in disbelief, realizing she wasn't just being rude, she was trying to scam him. "Let me get this straight," he said slowly. "You think I moved into someone else's house and owe you rent?" Her expression remained smug. "Exactly. And if you don't pay, I'll call the police. I'm friends with several officers, and I'm sure they'd be very interested in why a stranger has moved into a vacant property." Derek's patience began to thin. "Lady, you're making a mistake." "No," she interrupted, waving a manicured hand dismissively. "You're the one making a mistake. You can't fool me. I've lived here long enough to know who belongs, and who doesn't." He clenched his jaw, fighting to stay composed. "What's your name?" he asked. "Karen Thompson," she said proudly, as though the name carried some authority. "My late husband built half the homes in this subdivision. So don't think you can just stroll in and claim one." That explained it, she was related to the previous owners. Derek nodded slowly. Ah, so you're their relative. That makes sense. Look, Karen, I'm sorry for your loss. But they sold this house fair and square. You can check with the county records if you'd like. Karen glared. Don't patronize me. I'll give you one last chance. Pay the rent, or I'll call the police. Derek sighed, tired of the conversation. Go ahead. Call them. For a moment, she faltered, surprised that he wasn't intimidated. But then she pulled out her phone with dramatic flair and began dialing. Fine, we'll see what they have to say about this. Derek folded his arms and waited calmly as she gave a loud, embellished version of the story to the 911 operator. Yes, I'd like to report a trespasser, she said, her voice dripping with false concern. A man broke into the house across from me and refuses to leave. When she hung up, she looked triumphant. They'll be here soon. I suggest you pack up before you embarrass yourself further. Derek chuckled softly. I think you're the one who's going to be embarrassed. A few minutes later, 2 police cruisers rolled into the quiet street. Neighbors peeked from their windows, curious about the commotion. Karen practically sprinted toward the officers, waving her clipboard like a flag. Officers. Thank God you're here. That man broke into my neighbor's house and refuses to leave. The officers approached cautiously, one staying with Karen while the other walked toward Derek. He greeted them calmly. Good morning, officers. I'm Derek Coleman, the new owner of this property. I have all the paperwork if you'd like to see it. Karen scoffed from behind them. He's lying. I've lived here for years. I know who owns that house. The officer held up a hand to silence her, then turned back to Derek. Do you have proof of ownership, sir? Of course. Derek stepped inside, returned with a folder, and handed over the deed, purchase receipt, and ID. The officer examined the documents carefully. After a moment, he looked up. Everything checks out. This house is legally owned by Mr. Coleman. Karen blinked. What? That can't be right. There must be a mistake. There's no mistake, ma'am, the officer replied. His name is on the deed. The sale was processed last month. Karen's face flushed red. But the Thompsons wouldn't sell to, she caught herself, but the meaning was clear. The officer's eyes narrowed slightly. Ma'am, he said sternly, are you implying something based on this man's race? Karen stammered. And no. Of course not. I'm just saying, it's unusual, that's all. The officer shook his head. You called in a false report, ma'am. That's a serious offense. I suggest you apologize and leave this man alone. Her expression twisted between anger and humiliation. I didn't mean to cause trouble. I just thought. You thought wrong, Derek interjected, his tone firm but measured. Next time, maybe ask before you assume. Karen's eyes burned with resentment. You think you're so clever, don't you? She snapped. Fine, keep the house. But don't expect anyone here to welcome you. I don't need your welcome, Derek replied calmly. Just respect, the same as anyone else. The officer escorted Karen back toward her home, giving her a quiet warning about misuse of emergency services. As they walked away, she hissed under her breath, this neighborhood is going downhill. Derek stood in the doorway, exhaling slowly. His hands trembled slightly from the tension, but a faint smile tugged at his lips. He wasn't going anywhere. Later that afternoon, Derek received a knock on the door. When he opened it, a younger woman stood there holding a small basket of muffins. Hi, she said awkwardly. I live 2 houses down. I saw what happened earlier. I'm really sorry about Karen. She's not exactly the best representative of our street. Derek smiled, appreciating the gesture. Thanks. You don't have to apologize for her. I know, the woman replied.